Hi, this is Aquarian Anarchy, and this is Marcus Pulis, and you'll see Chad and Nico with me again. Unfortunately, Nico's camera's still fucked up.
I'm
so,
broke.
so
We
he's
need more patrons.
he's still in the spirit world.
Help a brother out.
Tonight we've got a great guest. We've got a friend of mine, Chris Rice, who has his own podcast. And the links will be down below. I strongly suggest you check it out. Chris and I met probably going on 3 years ago, between 2 and 3 years ago. As most people that watch this show know, I still schedule for Adam Kokesh, but at the time he was running for president or running for not president. And Chris had him on his show, frankly, had him on his show multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And so as part of that, he and I kind of started a friendship, talking here and there in between. He's a very interesting individual, and I've come to really respect his opinion on a bunch of different topics. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about what he's been doing, what he plans to do, and those kinds of things. Then we'll dive into the solutions that he has to the problem of the state. So take it away, Chris.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that introduction, and thank you for the invitation to come on the show. And yeah, we have known each other for close to 3 years, and it did all start with Adam Kokesh. And I think he's been on my show now 6 times. And in between that, yeah, we've gotten to know each other. And so when we first met, when I started my YouTube channel, I just considered myself a content creator, and I was dealing with topics ranging from cryptocurrency, blockchain, economics, a little bit of politics, and kind of promoting the ideas of what anarchy truly is and what voluntarism is to an audience that wasn't very familiar with that. And then after a couple of years, I just started to expand out my channel. I started learning that what I was doing, I became more passionate about in some areas. So I considered what I was doing a form of journalism, researching and all that. So I took on that role, was getting really kind of sort of bored with being boxed in with just the cryptocurrency and economics after a couple of years, and decided to restructure my channel and start 3 separate shows and separate the content. So people can find me at ricecrypto. That's the brand. My name is Chris Rice. I go by Rice, but people can call me Chris or they can call me Rice. And when I restructured my channel, I started the Rice Crypto show, which is about crypto, blockchain, and technology. And then the Rice Report deals with economics and politics. And then I started Stranger Than Fiction, which is my real branch out. And what that was me dealing with topics that some people might consider to be conspiracy theory, some things that are unproven, some things that are regarding hidden history related type topics. And that kind of led me into learning a little bit about what's been going on in this world in regards to the maritime law system that you were mentioning, that you want to talk a little bit about, and how deep that goes and how we got to be here. I'm sure people have heard the stories of a corporate entity, a legal fiction version of you, a straw man, some people call it. And this isn't necessarily about claiming accounts or creditor accounts or things like that people may have heard in regards to this topic. If that is something that's possible, then that would be kind of the icing on the cake. But in order, I think, for us to free ourselves as individuals and kind of get back to that state that we were when America was first formed, I kind of found out a little bit more about how the deceptions began on our shores. I mean, it goes deep, but I wanted to understand it from our perspective, because if we're talking about trying to change things, we got to have solutions as well. And we don't want to repeat those same mistakes that we had made before. And history has been hidden and squashed, and we don't really know the truth of everything that's happened. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert, I'm learning. So anybody who's watching this that has information that they can help fill in the blanks or know something, or if they can correct me where I'm wrong, you can always reach out to me on pretty much all social media at Rice Crypto. And my email account is ricecrypto@gmail.com.
I'll link below.
And this is an important topic for me. I mean, it's kind of become my focus. I still cover economics and cryptocurrencies because, we're debt-based slaves. So having an understanding of what's happening in the economy is definitely very important for us to break away from that. And cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies are those tools, part of the tools that help us to get to that freedom that we're truly wanting. So they're very much relevant, but the big focus overall is trying to unite people worldwide, so that we can build up enough numbers so that we can assemble. Because when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. It's that united we stand, divided we fall. So right now we just need to build up numbers. So coming on shows like this, other people's shows, connecting communities, there's a common bond that unites us all. It's what's really funny is the idea that the freedom movement is divided.
Yeah.
And it's,
I heard you talk about that on that the Freedom and Liberty. I think it was just a few days ago that you did
with Christopher James on there.
Yeah, with Christopher James. Yeah, and that's I was like, yeah, man, it's so true. Like we're getting into these like pissing contests and stuff over like silly little stuff that like little petty differences, and there's like a monster on the other side of the door, and we're sitting here fighting over who gets to hold which gun and everything's like, no,
right, and who's going to get to be the postmaster general,
right,
right, or the president of the republic. It's
right,
or even the king of the world.
Right.
Yeah, and the kind of a lot of the stuff that you included in that actually was some of the ideas that came about in this emanation, if you will, of Aquarian Anarchy. Is Chad and I kind of had come together, and then eventually Nico joined us. And one of the things that we discussed early on was that a lot of people bitch, and they like to talk about this and that and this problem, and and we were like, I don't want to talk about the problems of the world all day. I want to focus on the solutions to the problems of the world. And so one of the things that we've kind of focused down on is having people like yourself on that have ideas that lead towards a solution. And a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is those kinds of things. I want to, kind of dive down into just to kind of, if nothing else, it's what I first got to know you about was the cryptocurrency stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm by no means a expert on crypto, although I have to say, you don't know this, but many people in our audience do. I lost my job about a month ago, my day job.
Oh, wow.
And it is cryptocurrency that is keeping me afloat right now. And had I not prepared and had a bit of and I'm not by any means crypto rich either,
right,
but I had enough that it's giving me a little bit of a bump in between and allowing me another source of income that I wouldn't have had. And beyond that, because I think that each of us, Chad and Nico and myself, are all interested in cryptocurrency, but I don't think that we have nearly the understanding of it that you do, beyond the fact of kind of using it as like another savings account, if you will. What other ways do you feel that cryptocurrency can help us break out of this statist paradigm that we're in?
Well, I mean, cryptocurrency, okay, so we'll rewind to the beginning of crypto. The cryptocurrencies came out. There were a lot of people trying to invent cryptocurrencies, this cryptographer army of cypherpunks. And it was ultimately this person or this group, Satoshi Nakamoto, that on Halloween of 2008 released the Bitcoin white paper, which was an abstract for what was planning to be released, explained kind of in a scientific way what was going to be done, gave a little bit of coding ideas and things like that, but it wasn't completely spelling out what was being done. Then January of 2009, the first Bitcoin was mined. Now, it was designed out of the, if you study economics, what was happening in 2008, we had that housing derivatives crash. Pretty much the whole entire financial system globally should have crashed had it not been for the Federal Reserve and central banks stepping in and printing their way out of it, or or basically putting a Band-Aid on a massive head wound,
pushing it down the line.
And a lot of people just say it's like the banks are zombie banks and everything's on life support. And now we're at that point where, you know, the beginning of this year, we had the pandemic and that was being used as a scapegoat for what happened economically. But if you look at what happened in 2019, we had the inverted yield curve and the repo market issues. Now, the inverted yield curve is a signal for recession. Every single time it's popped up, it's 100% accurate, and it's within a year. So we already knew that was coming. Now here we are with the question that you asked. I mentioned that we're debt-based slaves. The real easy answer to take the power away from central banks and governments right now would be to stop using their money and use cryptocurrencies. Can we convince enough people to do that? I mean, there's been people doing it now, like with all these rallies and things like that. And I've been seeing it happen a lot in the African-American movements. Not just the African-American movement, but I've seen it very prevalent in those movements, like at a lot of the rallies, speeches, peaceful protest events. And people are saying, you know, we've got to get away from, it's the money that's controlling us. It's this financial system. That's the big thing. That's the really huge thing. If we just all stopped using their money, I'm sure you guys have heard the saying when everybody would say back in the day, or even still currently, I don't know because I stopped driving, but let's not get gas on one particular day.
Right.
Everybody not get gas and see how it hurts the oil industry. Now, no one's done that.
Yeah.
But we know that if it would have an impact.
Right, but you would have to get everybody to do it.
And you'd have to all like stay home and not do any, like you'd have to not do the things, because it doesn't do you any good to drive around and not get gas today and then go fill up your tank tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because then all you did is delay it a day, and all the throughputs are the same. But yeah, you'd have to actually do some sort of, you know, massive like sit-in at home or whatever. You know, the thing that they did to all of us, we're all just be like, stay home to slow the spread of the oil oligopoly. One of the things that when you were talking about using alternative currencies, like that's one of the issues that I've found with it, is that there's a lot of hodling. There's a lot of people who are just kind of either trading it, using it as an investment back and forth, but the use and the churning of like actually having it become a useful means of exchange, not just a store of value, to me is like that's the next hurdle to, you know, to answer the question of like, are enough people going to use it when there are enough places where you can use it and where you can get access to it, and it doesn't seem like this insane albatross of
the access thing is starting
discovery
to change.
To try to,
I mean, now you got Visa and MasterCard getting into the game. You got the banks going to be custodying crypto. PayPal is not going to be doing things. Venmo, I heard is. We already know Cash App. So, I mean, there's a lot of easy on-ramps. Coinbase has, you know, become a lot easier from what I understand. Somebody I know that's mid-60s signed up, and I think it was like less than 24 hours. The whole KYC AML process, banking, everything was approved and linked up. So that was kind of a good thing to hear about, because it's been a while since I set up my Coinbase account or even been around anybody who did. Yeah. And for me, it was a little bit more of a timely thing back in early 2017.
Right.
Now, other use cases, I mean, I know people who live without banking. If you don't like banks and you don't want to use banks, or let's just say you screwed up and you owe a lot of debt and you might owe banks and you can't have a bank account, cryptocurrency could help you with that. You can purchase gift cards. You can buy things directly. There's lots of different ways you can use things like the Lightning Network. There's a lot of different opportunities and options for people to be able to live specifically on cryptocurrencies if they want. Now, I do try to spend and utilize cryptos, but my main objective right now is to save, because the price is so volatile and it's gone down. So I went through a period of time where I was kind of just living on crypto, and what I lived off of for a little over 6 months, I really wish I would have been able to have saved, because I was doing it when Bitcoin was under $5,000.
Yeah, right.
And when you think about something like that, then it makes those regrets, those shouldas, those couldas, those wouldas a little bit harder to deal with, because it's what you were living on. It's not just what you were taking out as profit. Like, oh, I just exited at the wrong time. Like, I could have actually lived a couple more months, maybe double the amount of time, had I just been a little bit more patient, you know? So, I mean, it's, so I do try to do both though. I mean, I think that if we all just hodled crypto, it wouldn't.
Right.
You know, we're not going to see no action on the blockchains. We're never going to see like the scaling happen. We're never going to see it actually do what it's supposed to do.
Right. Exactly.
I genuinely think that crypto is actually, like, even though it's exploding, it's because what is it? There at my gas station, or used to be, there was a Bitcoin like exchange where you could exchange cash and put it into Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Like an ATM.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
So I genuinely think, and on top of that, you have to think this world is going digital very, very fast. So for
the government is trying to do that for sure.
Yeah. For crypto not to be like really relevant within the 5 years, not even 5 years, I would give it probably like a year before it really becomes implemented into like a major currency.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, and there are a lot of websites that do incentivize people by using cryptocurrencies to pay. You won't actually pay the full amount that you would pay if you paid with a credit card, because they're saving on those credit card transaction fees. So they're actually incentivizing people. It's just, there was a lot more companies that were accepting it. And then because of the price volatility, companies stopped using it as a payment method because it wasn't feasible, and all they're doing is cashing out immediately. So all you're doing is just, even though you may be sending, let's say, Newegg or something like that takes Bitcoin, they may not be keeping the Bitcoin. As soon as they receive the Bitcoin, they may be swapping it into US dollar right there on the spot. So we don't really even know how the businesses are even utilizing and what they're doing with the cryptos on the back end. You know.
For sure. What's funny is using it as because I'm kind of like you, back when Steemit was big, I was absolutely using Bitcoin as a currency at the time. I would earn, because I knew Adam, and Adam was upvoting my shit, and I was getting 10, I was getting $500.
Oh yeah, Adam had the magic touch on Steemit.
I know, it was great. But because of that, I bought, a $300 tent from Walmart with Bitcoin. I was using it as, and that, to be clear, I used the gift app to
get a Walmart gift card, right,
to get a Walmart gift card, and switched it around. But my point is that I'm kind of like you. I have used it, and what I see is I'm watching the slow progression up, and that's why I'm trying like hell to just hold on to what I have.
Yeah.
And because I think that it is pretty safe to say that there's a really good chance that we're going to be looking at some massive gains in the crypto market, at least by the first of the year, and especially as the effects, because I agree with you, Chris. I think that the economic problems, I talked about this on Aquarian Anarchy before Chad and Nico joined back in October of last year. I had watched something that Jeff Berwick put out and was like, oh yeah, this shit's coming next year. And I watched the patterns, and as they compared them to dips in the past, and was like, oh, this is just the same shit. And this past January, when it fell, I said at the time, they're just covering this shit up. They're just covering up the stuff that was going to happen anyway. So I think I'm with you there.
Yeah, no, I would like to see now in any normal circumstance, I would say after the election and all the chaos kind of calms down, that by the end of the year, end of Q4, that we would see all-time highs back again, and pretty much the majority of the market.
For sure.
But at the same time, we're in unknown territory when it comes to economics as well. I mean, the Federal Reserve is printing and printing and printing, but I mean, it's kind of in the last days, and we're at a very pivotal point. So, and if that the shit hits the fan because of the election, which I kind of think it will. I think if we don't think it will, I think there's something wrong with us because, I mean, there's already been so much talk unless Donald Trump was to win by a landslide.
And even then, like the mail-in ballots and all that stuff, and the delays with some of that stuff,
we're not going to get an answer right away.
We're not going to know anything, and then that's just going to cause more
it'll probably
unrest.
End up going to Supreme Court. Donald Trump's like, I'm not going to leave, you know, and they're kind of. I've listened to both sides because the media is definitely misconstruing that out a little bit, making it like he's just being a bully. Right, they're weaponizing everything that's going on, which is the reason why, like, I keep trying to tell everybody, especially these people who are QAnon followers and really look up to Donald Trump. I have nothing against Donald Trump. I have nothing against QAnon. I'm very middle ground. Actually, right now, I would say I'm more pro-Trump because I'm definitely anti-Biden. So, but I'm not going to vote either way. But if I had to say something publicly, I would say I'm pro-Trump in that sense. But us helping ourselves.
I want to interject there too, because I'm in a similar position. I've made it clear on this channel that I'm not voting either. And you know, I can't vote for Joe Jorgensen because, long story short, I don't vote for Masters. But when it comes
I got to tell you guys about something in a minute.
Okay. And when it comes to Trump, where I fall is that, and maybe Roger Stone just got to me when he had his conversation with Adam, but with Trump, I have some hope that he's not completely and totally controlled. And so if that's true, that gives me a little bit of hope because I do think he's going to win. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in.
And yeah, there are a lot of things that seem like Donald Trump is trying to do some things that are good for America and maybe even restore the republic. I mean, he has mentioned things like getting rid of capital gains tax and taxation of income, and then going to like a flat tax. He's mentioned the idea of a gold-backed currency, sound money. So I mean, those are all positive things. And some of that is even reminiscent of JFK. Now, I meant to say this. I'm glad that you said something because I totally would have forgot this. I got a notice in the mail, a voter registration notice, where they sent me, "Dear voter, the voter registration deadline for the 2020 election is coming up, and public records show that you may not be registered to vote at this address." Right? So they sent me this letter to remind me of this. And then they sent me a voter registration application that is like majority filled out for me. Wow. And the bad thing is they put the wrong fucking birthday. They didn't, like, it came from the government. Yeah. But they got my birthday as January 1st, 1975. I was born in 75. I'm 45 years old, but my birthday is not January 1st. And I'm like, and it's typed in.
So you can't change it.
I couldn't even do anything with it if I wanted to. But I mean, I'm like, I feel like that's intrusive.
Well, you don't have to tell us when your birthday was, but were you born in January?
No.
Oh, okay. No, because I was born in January of 74. So that's why I was just checking.
No, I was born on April 29th. So one year back in the 90s when the LA riots took place, Florence and Normandy, all that was. Oh,
wow.
That was April 29th. The LA riots took place. Man. Sublime actually wrote a song talking about how they got their awesome equipment.
So rolling go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, so I wanted to on the issue of like the money and the election and everything. Like one of the things that's been just this last week, this thing with Trump's tax return or tax. What did he pay, like $750 in taxes or something like that?
That's what I've heard.
And they said like 10 years worth of like basically not paying taxes. And I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. Like, this is a great example. Like, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine today. I was like, so this is great because I can't wait to remind all of my Republican friends that when I say, when they say who's going to pay for the roads, I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's just all do what Trump did, because you were defending him, and the thing is, I was saying, my whole point was we should all do that.
Let me tell you something about
we should all avoid paying taxes.
Something I learned, it's because I heard this argument come up a lot, especially in the anarchy camp. You know, what are we going to do with this? You know, I get the privatizing, like privatizing police and things like that. That makes sense. But the roads, now and this would obviously have to change in this aspect, but just so we're aware how the roads are maintained, it's not our tax dollars. Because for the most part, our tax dollars are going to pay back interest to the Federal Reserve for printing out money. Something that people may not be aware of is
taxes.
Do you know what the purpose of roads are? The main initial purpose of a road.
Transport goods.
It was for the postmaster.
For postal service?
For a postal service. It's the post office's fucking responsibility.
They're supposed to be partially private.
I mean,
one of the roads suck.
All the roads are postal roads. They're all everything's a postal address. Everything's postal related.
Damn, if FedEx was in charge of the roads, it'd be a lot better, I bet.
So, I mean, that's kind of some of the stuff that I started, like, the little nuances of things I started figuring out when I started going down this rabbit hole of
that's interesting
American history. And,
yeah. Well, so I wanted to say, I'm sorry, Marcus. Let me get one more. Let me get one more, and then I'll hand it back to you because
Marcus, you need a better microphone so you can overpower him. Because
you need to. Yeah, you got to do that. I've been telling Marcus he needs to get a better microphone.
They got to join our Patreon. Get us more
on our Patreon. Help us both out.
Yeah. So what you talked about when you were going through, like, you know, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm learning, I'm researching, and it's kind of like I'm following this stuff down this whole, like, I think that's a really valuable thing, especially in this era where content creation is not just about, like, you know, stupid unboxing videos or any other kind of
I'm not a popular content creator.
Right. So like, if we can have people actually going through this discovery, because I think when you think of, like, discovery and joining someone for a journey on a quest for information, on a quest for truth, or on a quest for skills building, or whatever the case may be, you bring something to the table. It's you're embarking on a journey together versus this competing know-it-all contest stuff where everybody has to
everybody
pretend
works off each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Pulls their resources together and Voltron their brain.
Exactly. And it's also it's like it does what you were talking about bringing, not just bringing solutions, but also bringing some of that unity, because then instead of having, because there's a lot of this other stuff in other parts of, like, YouTube and Twitter and Facebook stuff, you know, where you have these competing, this, like, Highlander rule sort of thing of, like, there can only be one, you know, I'm the smartest, I know everything, and if you say anything, like, even if we agree, you're a threat to me, so I have to, like, dig up
that damn ego, man.
Exactly. The ego's getting in the way, and I can't stand it. And so, like, I just wanted to say that, and then I'll hand it off to Marcus so he can steer us the next direction that we're going. But I wanted to say how much I appreciate that, just that perspective on how you go about your business, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, like you said, create that Voltron effect. So synergy is a beautiful thing.
I appreciate you saying that.
All I was going to say, so Chris, just take it away, is, you know, tell us about the rabbit holes that you have gone down and where that's led you. And I was just going to transition into the next subject using that. So tell us what you found. See, I know that with, you know, maritime law and the one thing I watched with you talking about, like, the you know, how when you're born, it's basically, you know, you're handed your birth certificate, which is like a certificate of lading, you know, and all that stuff. It's been a minute, but
it's like a bill of lading. Basically?
No, it's actually it's a security bond, and a lot of times it says it's printed on security paper.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, that's why when I talk about this to people, when people are like, "Oh, the straw man stuff, blah 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 blah, sovereign," you know, it's like, no, this is not what I'm talking about. That's where people went wrong, and that's where mistakes were made. And, you know, there's what I'm trying to do with the group of people is we're trying to learn from all these other individuals who have learned things, and all kind of have, like, a piece of the puzzle, or have the puzzle pretty much complete minus a piece or two, and everybody else together all has those missing pieces, but their egos don't let them sit at the table together.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to help that process as much as possible.
Yeah.
If not, just trying to take all the actual puzzle pieces I can from everybody, and with like the people I'm working with, and try to put this puzzle together and figure out what we need to do specifically. So, I mean, ultimately, I would tell people if they're interested and want to get some really basic knowledge to go to awarriorcause.com. That's Christopher James's website, since you mentioned him. A Warrior Cause gives a lot of foundational knowledge. He's a common law expert. Common law would be the opposite of the maritime law. Maritime law would be the law of the water. Common law would be the law of the land, which we'll get into that a little bit more. And then I would encourage people to check out earthunited.global. Earth United is an alliance of people that are trying to build numbers so that we can take a stand internationally on the same day. And there's kind of a plan of action that's being worked out, and we're figuring out ways of educating people and building those numbers so that we can effectively do this properly without making ourselves targets. Because now everything that I'm talking about doing is completely within our rights. I'm talking mainly to people who live in the United States. So this is completely within our rights. It's not anything treasonous or seditious or anything to that effect. So no matter what somebody wants to try to put this as, and it's not going in the area of sovereign per se. Sovereign would be, when you look at status and stuff like that, sovereign would be really equal to a king. A king has sovereign status. And that means really there's no authority over that individual other than the high power, God.
Correct. It's what we call being an anarch, as opposed to an oligarch or a monarch. That's actually what instead of calling myself an anarchist, I call myself an anarch, because I believe there is no one who owns me. There is no one who rules me.
That's the best way I've learned to. Now, see, I kind of given up the fight of calling myself an anarchist and trying to defend it, because we got to choose our battles, and that just didn't seem a battle worth fighting for, because the publicly accepted, socially normed definition of anarchy is chaos. Mayhem, and it's what Antifa is. So there's nothing that we can do to fight that other than showing something other than that. And when I was trying to, even on Twitter and different social media outlets, trying to raise awareness to this fact, and even republishing a video that I did like almost a year ago, I wasn't getting support from the anarchist community. So I just really kind of just, and actually now a bunch of anarchists before and this is the thing that kind of upsets me. And if I'm offending anybody, I would say good, because it's all these people who claim to be an anarchist, but when the fight actually comes to their door about defending anarchy, they're like, oh, we're voluntarists now. We're not
Aquarian Anarchy.
We're just voluntarists. We're just voluntarists over here. I don't know what you're talking about, them anarchists. No, that's kind of how I felt, man. Like, so, but the idea of explaining what, is the opposite of a monarchy or an oligarchy or an oligarchy. Do you have a king or queen? Do you have someone who rules over you? Is that you? And when you say that to most people, like, no, absolutely not. Well, I'm like, then you are an anarchist when it comes down to it. So, like I said, all this stuff that I'm talking about in regards to the law stuff, I'm not an expert on. So anybody who can help correct me where I may be wrong, or fill in some blanks, or provide some additional information, it would be greatly appreciated. The word law, I'm understanding, is breaking down for land, air, and water. Now, I don't know how that would translate in other languages. I don't know if it's just one of those things that just kind of works out. I don't know. But it makes sense, because those are the three main types of laws. Now, if you talk to an attorney, a lawyer, or a judge, they're going to tell you there's all these other different kinds of laws. These are the main three jurisdictions when you really break it down: land, sea, and air. And land is your common law, air is your trust or ecclesiastical law, and water is your maritime admiralty law. And apparently this stuff with all this goes back apparently to Babylonian times, but the history is so screwed up that I really can't say yes that it does come from Babylonian times. Apparently this existed in ancient Greece, then existed in Rome. Rome was really good about this whole system, and that's kind of what's when people talk about the United States being like Rome, it really is a lot more like Rome than I believed it was until I started going down these rabbit holes. I mean, our whole judicial system is based off a book called Corpus Juris Secundum. Corpus Juris, which originally started by a Roman emperor named Justinian. And he created, it was like, I don't have all the dates off the top of my head, but it's like something around 1200s. No, it's like 500 AD or something like that, I believe, Justinian. And then he created what was called Corpus Juris Civilis, because back then there was no J's. J's didn't exist, so it was Juris, not Juris. And it could translate it to body of law or law of the dead, either way, or both at the same time, which is kind of what it turns out to be in a way, because when you go into the birth certificate system and the social security system and all that, you're really a person who is lost at sea who doesn't know his name. And that kind of, so to kind of fast forward a little bit, from Justinian, we had the Magna Carta created. And I think that was in the 1200s. And then not too long after the Magna Carta, there was a Roman juror, and jurors didn't mean the same thing it meant today, but his name was Accursius, and he perfected the Corpus Juris Civilis that we know today as Corpus Juris. And that's when the surnames and all that kind of started being used. I think the surnames were a big thing to kind of get us tied into this maritime system. In Rome, they had what they had called cognomen names, Cognomen. And these cognomen names are like nicknames that were given to military people mainly. It was men, and it was always passed down to the son. And eventually it turned into this, because if you start going back in history, last names, surnames didn't exist. They just had like their name, and there was a family attachment name, but
right.
My name Rice is not my name, it's my family name. You know, when you start discovering this, you find that your name, some people refer to it as your Christian name, or your given name would be your first and middle name. So like really technically my full name is Christopher Wayne Rice. So my name would be Christopher Wayne of the House of Rice.
Of the House of Rice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's how
of the house or of the family or whatever. Yeah.
Or however you want to term it.
Right.
Yep. But it separates you from your family, because Christopher Rice or Chris Rice, when he goes to court, doesn't represent the Rice family in any capacity. So that was something that I found to be interesting.
I want to give a little bit more credence, though, going back to, because what's funny is I'm not an expert at, like you said, but spirituality, and particularly Near East spirituality, is something that I've studied to a pretty decent depth. My wife's actually studied pretty in depth. She's not an expert. What I find interesting is that in Sumer, which is directly linked to Babylon, there were three primary gods. And before anybody gets all crazy with the was it Sitchin and all that, aliens and the Anunnaki and all of that,
Enlil and the Anu and all that.
Right.
Yeah, that's just it. There's three gods, and like for instance, Enki would be the maritime god. He's the Lord of the waters, and Enlil would be the Lord of the air, and Anu would be the Lord of the earth. So you have those three divisions, and those were the primary. And there's like marriages between them. For instance, my wife would kill me. But the wife of Enki is Dangal Nuna. I remembered, and she is a earth goddess. So you have this intermarrying when you start dealing with the goddesses. So I think that now again, this is just religious overtones, but back then society was based in religious overtones. So
all this relates back to spirituality. And when I started looking into this, it started connecting up a lot of my rabbit holes.
yeah.
It started like making everything make a little bit more sense. It's intense when you see how deep this stuff goes. The Magna Carta was, I think, attempting
1215.
12, so it was 1235 that Accursius perfected the corpus juris and the surname system. The surname system is what took people away from the Magna Carta. So the Magna Carta had its like 15, 20 years of whatever it was, and then people just opted into the other system without realizing that they were opting into another system. And then you could fast forward to 1666 for people in the UK and anybody who's based on what is it, a British colony? I'm not sure how you would terminalize something like
America, Australia,
Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Technically, the United States wouldn't be. We're not a British colony per se, but that's something that I would kind of get into a little bit too. But the Cesti QV Act, Cesti QV Act, it's CESTI, next word QUE, next word VI Act. It was in 1666. You can look it up, but that's what was taking place was the fires from the Black Plague, burning down London and kind of starting afresh. And there was decrees to turn the people into chattel, basically property. And it never has been overturned or changed since then. It continue. If you look up right now the Cesti QV Act from 1666 on the British government archives, or you can see that the current stamp is on there. So it's still currently in effect. So now, thanks for the United States. What I started to learn is that the United States itself, there isn't really a country. It's like a confederate league of nations. Every state is its own nation. Every state has its own government, republic, constitution, legislature, everything. Its own separate everything. They are its own country. So prior to Abraham Lincoln and the 14th Amendment, anybody who was born, there was nobody who was a U.S. citizen. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, these guys were not U.S. citizens.
Right.
They were citizens of the state they were born in. So and that's what it was. It was up until Lincoln with different executive orders. And from what I understand too, and I'd like to get some clarity from people if they might know about this, know a little bit about Lincoln's history. Apparently Lincoln put us in a state of martial law, and that had never been changed ever since. And we're apparently still under that martial law system. That
For
unaware,
sure. I mean,
it's a war. It's a war against the people. The government has a war against the people.
For sure, and that's you can actually find the proof of that. There are multiple flags, and people can go look this up. We are actually flying
war flag,
the wartime flag, the what we identify as the American flag, the red, white, and blue with a field of blue. With
the Title IV flag is a military flag,
right? But what I'm saying is some proof of that is that we are flying every time somebody's waving a flag, the red, white, and blue flag, they're waving our war flag. Yes, it is a war, and yes, it is a war against the American people. And one of the things I think that when talking about Lincoln that people need to understand too is that Lincoln usurped a whole shit ton of power. And a lot of people like to demonize him being killed and John Wilkes Booth and all of that stuff. And I'm not trying to,
he might have got what he deserved is actually
yeah, no shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, and for those who might be of African descent, and
Lincoln didn't have your best interest at heart.
No, he sure did not.
Lincoln said he wished he never ended slavery.
He sure
What'd you say, Nico?
He kept us as slaves, and it's like
He turned us all into slaves. He freed the African Americans as being physical slaves, but then he turned us all into debt slaves. That 14th Amendment, that kiss of death. And
it's so stupid. So why don't historians like point this shit out? It's like
because this would be pointing out how people have the power that people are so stupid to not realize. Right. Why would you tell everybody what the hell you're doing? That's what we're trying to do now.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what Rothbard was talking about when he and I'm going to paraphrase, but he basically said if the American people would wake up to the reality of what government does, then it would pass away like any other criminal gang.
What about JFK's secret society speech?
For sure. Absolutely. It's in there too.
I think Eisenhower had one similar.
What does our friend Bill Cooper say? Well, he didn't actually say this. This is in one of the documents that he found. It says, in 1954, well, let me just skip to this thing. It says, although the so-called moral issues were raised, in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent.
There's a Russian or a Roman maxim that says that let him he will be deceived be deceived.
For sure. All right, guys. We're moving on to we have about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, let me crash course just a few things real quick, and then you can find that transition point.
Be a great extended edition.
The only thing I want to get more people to touch on with and help me out with is you have the Lieber Code that Lincoln did. That was an executive order. And then you have following that, the Act of 1871, which the two, I think, extended out the territories of the District of Columbia all over the country. Because if you look at even though we have separate states, everything's broken down to federal districts. So the United States itself is just one big giant District of Columbia based off of what I'm saying with the Lieber Code and the Act of 1871. Then also the 13th Amendment. Apparently, Lincoln helped to abolish the 13th Amendment. If people look into American history at the 13th Amendment, one of the things about that was that you were not allowed to be a president or hold office. You couldn't be a member of the Bar Association.
The 13th Amendment is the slavery amendment.
You can research this. I'm telling you.
Okay.
There was a 13th Amendment that
prior to the
prior to
prior to the 13th Amendment that
apparently
exists
this
now.
has something to do with bankers buying their way into getting this removed. That wasn't allowed because the Bar Association is the British Accreditation Registry. Every attorney feels loyalty to the Crown Incorporated, which is the City of London. That's your
holy shit
banking industry.
Yeah, man.
The Bar Association is based in the City of London.
You said British what is it? British Accreditation Registry?
British Accreditation Registry.
Hold on.
I believe registry is the correct word, but it's British Accreditation. So it's not feeling loyalty to the crown as in the Queen of England. It's the Crown Incorporated. It's the corporation in the City of London. Everything has become corporate.
Yeah.
And the corporate stuff falls under the maritime jurisdiction law. So it was like when the British Empire was ruling the seas and all the time of the pirates and all that. That's when like maritime law became such a really, really big thing. And in the United States, the Confederate League of States had agreed to allow for the corporate entity, the United States, to be created to represent and mediate for the states and for the individuals living here. And somewhere it changed and the power structures changed somewhere within Lincoln and Lincoln's assassination and the Act of 1871, then the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and then the Social Security number and birth certificate system in the 1930s. In 1930s, that's when they made it illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold. They made all the U.S. citizens sell their gold back.
Right.
I mean, it gets really sick.
And then they completely disconnect from even gold attached to or the backing 1971
kind of like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
that's when you gave complete control to the banks. to just do what they wanted to do because there was nothing backing up any money at that point. And that's one of the reasons why everybody hates America.
Yeah. Well, and
their currency is the US dollar, and look at
right.
it, it's monopoly money, and we're fueling the world with play monopoly money.
Monopoly money, and it's
too.
it's the only way that you can buy oil. It's like it's the number that or the currency that the oil price is pegged to. I wanted to ask you about, so you were talking about the 13th Amendment. I'm kind of, this is going through my head because the 13th Amendment is important to me because the 13th Amendment as it stands now is the alleged amendment that ended slavery, except that it didn't end slavery. It like institutionalized slavery in the form of
the 14th Amendment is what made all free people, and African American slaves were made free people. All free people were made U.S. citizens. When you were made a U.S. citizen is when you got put into this system. You got put into as a franchisee or an employee of the corporation, basically.
Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. So I'm looking at the 13th is involuntary servitude. It says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except, and this is the part where they got you, except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So, man, you better not have guns or weed in your car, because then you can be a slave. They can just lock you up, and then they can have you go clean the roads or make license plates or whatever.
So I didn't know I was going to need to get, there is documentation that I've got. I just can't find it offhand, which goes into it. Like, and some of the things that people can look at is like the American Citizens Manual of Reference. This is a book that came out in 1848, I believe.
All right. What's it called again? American
Citizens Reference Manual of Reference.
Okay.
I found what you were looking for, Chris, just so that
the 13th Amendment.
13th Amendment. This is the original 13th Amendment.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It seemed like there was like another 13th Amendment, and they just like, nah, fuck that one. Let's put this.
I don't know if they replaced it or if they just took out parts of the.
Oh, maybe original. So. Yeah, they may have.
What it read. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatever from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or of either of them. That's what it reads.
Now, but there was something that was talking about no member of the Bar Association, because that would also be included in those kind of categories of.
My guess is that, because it goes on, and I will send this to you, Chris, and send it to Chad. I just went, and just so you know, my first place to go was Google, and obviously it wasn't there. And so I went to DuckDuckGo and found it, and I think it's I'm not going to read.
I got more information I can put in, and I'm going to be trying to put together. I work with a guy named Stan Barabbas from a channel called Bodhisattva Love.
Right.
We're going to be trying to put together some like timeline type videos and try to spell this out, like even with a whiteboard. Trying to go over like days. I'm still trying to, like, as I was telling you, I'm collecting pieces of the puzzle, trying to put it together. That's why I'm sharing what I know or think I know, so that I can have people to help, because that's the way we do this. We do this together.
Right.
So hey, have you heard of the second what is this? The two U.S. constitutions that are.
There's a Constitution for and a Constitution of, but again, like it's it's like everything is. I don't know. It seems like
I'll send it. I have it pulled up. I'll send it.
But that's what it is, right? It's just a for and an of, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, because one is for the which would be like the de jure nation, which is the not corporate nation. I think it's of. Which one?
For me, the Articles of Confederation were a much better organization.
And I just got the Federalist Papers too. I got that in the mail today, so I could read that.
Have you read the Anti-Federalist Papers?
Mm-mm.
Strongly suggest it. Again, at some point, I will have to send. I wrote an article on Patrick Henry. He was an anti-federalist.
It should be for the United States should be the very first constitution. It's of is the second one.
Yeah. And so basically, with the anti-federalists were the people who were actively against the Constitution, and the largest and the primary reason was things like there's an argument that Patrick Henry goes into in his opposition speech to the Virginia Assembly against the ratification of the Constitution, where he goes in and says this thing is going to grow, and it's going to grow quickly, and you're going to stop having representation in Congress because he was like, there were more people represented that were represented in the British government than we're talking about representing the American people. And at that time, even with the 13 colonies, there were far more people and much more land mass. And he knew that the government was going to grow and it was going to get bigger. And he had a crystal ball. But so basically the Articles of Confederation basically just said, if people get jiggy with us, we'll unite and get jiggy back. That's really all it did. Otherwise it left everybody to their own devices. It was much more of a local system. And of course, me, I like localization. I like taking the power as close to the people as possible. But what was funny is when the United States, as we know it today, was formed under the Constitution, it was completely and totally illegal. It was a coup. And just like all other history that we don't want to talk about, that the government doesn't want to talk about, that is hidden from us. That they illegally set up the Constitution. It is not a legal document. It is an illegal document and absolutely defied the will of the American people. And I strongly suggest, Chris, if you get a chance to look at the anti-federalist papers, many of them are written by Patrick Henry. He is amazing.
I like Patrick Henry and Thomas Paine.
He was the Adam Kokesh of his time. He really was, standing up to people and saying, no, we need to get this back to the people and down to the local level. And but it's not just him. Mercy Otis Warren, who was also the first person who documented the Revolutionary War, she was an anti-federalist and fought virulently against the Constitution. And like Nico said, we had presidents of these different colonies. He's brought that up long before. There were 13 presidents before George Washington.
Right, but not of the United States.
Right.
But of the colonies in some capacity.
Well,
and even George Washington at the Revolutionary War, there were a lot of people who were trying to crown him and make him a king.
For sure.
We just got done getting away from monarchy, and they were wanting to make somebody else a monarch. He's like, what the hell, man?
Right, for sure.
Even George Washington, I think, was like, what the hell?
Yeah. So I want to, all of that's very interesting, and we could probably talk about it for days and days and days.
We could.
But what I want to do is
got to make it digestible for people too. Right,
for sure. And but I want to wrap up this part of this show is called The Evolution of the Revolution, and I want to wrap that up and dig into your call to action that you've been making to people to organize, come together, and actively oppose tyranny. And I want to get into that, and I want to talk about that, but I'm going to make motherfuckers pay for it. So if you want to hear that.
Well, hey, since you're saying that, because I have a Patreon channel too. I'm not shilling my Patreon. I want to encourage people watching this to become a patron. When it's not much money, I know that, and it's a way to support what people do directly, and it really helps out. I'll tell you, like myself, I'm close to 8,700 subscribers. I started being able to monetize my channel in January, like towards the end of January. It was about the middle of January. I think I've earned since then maybe $650. I haven't actually received all of that at this point. So it's not a lot of money. And what we do, like as content creators, this takes time. People are taking time out of their life to be able to provide information for free. Yeah. So, this is a free video that people shouldn't. It's like, if you like what you're hearing and you want to support the cause, because obviously Marcus and Nico, they need cameras and microphones.
Yeah, pay for my MacBook.
That's how this works, though, because this right here was gifted to me by somebody who watched my channel. So maybe somebody watching this will say, hey, instead of me joining your Patreon channel, can I buy you? Can I get your address so I can send you a Blue Yeti mic via Amazon?
Right.
So, you never know what people are going to do. But it's, I would say very much that when people are giving their heart and trying to provide information, valuable information,
right,
there's nothing wrong with saying that the rest of this conversation we're gonna take, because also we got censorship we got to deal with too.
No, that's the big part of it for me too, is that you generally are going to have the people who see it are going to be the people who paid to see it, and I'm not paying to go scan through and comb through someone's hour and a half episode of something.
But I will say,
so I can look for stuff to get them banned for.
What we're going to talk about, you definitely are going to want to hear. So
yeah, for sure. Yep.
I'll let Marcus.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm not doing if I'm
just
looking
trying to show
somebody,
your guys' show, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
You are interested in what my man's Rice was saying about basically all the rules that you don't know about the United States and you don't want to pay for it. It's okay. Just stay ignorant. We're not mad at it. But if you do want to help out, be our guest.
Yeah, and learn a little bit in the process. That's right.
So please share, and definitely hit that little bell icon so that you know when this show drops, and support not only our Patreon and our channel, but go to the Rice channel as well. Go to ricecrypto, support him, at least subscribe, listen.
I wish I had the Rice channel. That would be so cool. Somebody else got to it before me. It's ricecrypto.
Yeah, okay. Well, but you said you wanted to be called Rice, so I'm trying to.
No, I know. I wish I could have the Rice channel. That would be awesome.
Yeah, just to kind of get ready for this, I went and watched a couple of your episodes. I saw some of the stuff that you did with Adam before, and I've seen a few other things with some other folks that, and I don't remember because it's been over, it's like here and there over a couple of years.
Now, on the back end, I've talked to Adam a little bit about this because I'm trying to bring these people to the table. And I think since Adam has been doing what he's doing in the libertarian movement, running for president, not president, to break things down to a state and local level, I think that his voice is definitely needs to be included in something like this. So I've already extended the invitation out to him.
Excellent. Yeah.
So please follow us, share, go check out our stuff. We got cool. Look at My Flag is Black t-shirt available at the Teespring. Check all that out. Get you one. And thank you very much for watching, and stay free.
Chad, hold my.
I got you, man.
Appreciate you.